Good evening, hello and welcome. You're with the news today, your primetime destination news. Newsmakers' talking points. Our big talking point is coming from Donald Trump. That's right, he's making the headlines yet again. He slapped a 25% tariff plus penalties on India just 2 days ahead of that August 1 proposed interim trade deal. How will Trump's tariffs now impact India? Has India been caught off guard? Also, the Operation Sindoor debate ends in Parliament. My special guest today will be the voice of one of the voices of Jammu and Kashmir. Farooq Abdullah will join me as to why he believes the debate hasn't done enough for the people of his state. But our top story that's breaking at this moment, US President Donald Trump has declared a 25% tariff on India from the 1st of August. That's right. Trump's tariffs, which come into effect in 48 hours, include not just tariffs but penalties. Trump says India is the largest buyer of energy from Russia at a time when Russia is at war with Ukraine. The Modi government says it's studying the implications of the US tariffs. The government says we'll take all steps to secure our national interests, though no official statement has come. Government says they are still committed to concluding a fair trade deal with the United States. Remember, it was August 1 that was seen as the deadline for an interim trade deal, but that may not quite happen with this dramatic announcement by Donald Trump. Is just Donald Trump playing hard? Karishma Asudani of Business Today joins us. Karishma, how is India reacting to this news? Was this something they expected, or have they been caught a little off guard?
Rajdeep, I think they were prepared, because I remember when I was interacting a week ago with the government officials, interestingly, somebody from the trade ministry highlighted and told me that if you do a check of India's export basket to the US, you will see, keeping pharmaceuticals aside, there is not much to lose, because the other sectors, the kind of exports we do are minimum when compared to that of pharmaceuticals. So that did give me some kind of hint that actually India was preparing for this day to come. Of course, it is not something that they were wanting to come, and that is why they were trying to put in a lot of negotiations. 5 rounds of negotiations were held by the India's chief negotiator in Washington, and of course Trade Minister Piyush Goyal was in Washington a couple of times. Prime Minister Modi also wanting to strike a deal. Surprising that the first mover advantage and the friendly terms between India and Washington could not result in India's favor, and so much so that now we are in fact behind a lot of countries, including that of Vietnam, who was our competitor with the whole China plus one policy, and this is going to put us on a back burner at least for some time, until and unless the September or October BTA pulls off really well and Donald Trump decides to rest the case when it comes to his friendship with us.
Karishma Asudani, for giving us a sense of how India is looking at this announcement by Trump. Thank you very much for joining me here at the top of the news. Now, opposition parties have already hit out at the Modi government, accusing it of despite bowing to Donald Trump, they haven't got the desired results, claims the opposition. The government is silent at the moment, but listening to what the opposition has just said outside Parliament.
Government has only believed in this kind of Howdy Modi, Abki Bar Modi, Trump Sarkar, all these kind of events only they are more concentrated. How many countries Mr. Modi has gone, how many awards he has got it, how many people received in the airport. This is the thing Mr. Modi's government is concentrating, and at last they are let down our India's strength itself. India's strength, this government is not able to understand it. We need to understand foreign policy and diplomatic relations has to be on our strength, not on our weakness. And if Mr. Trump is able to do this kind of things with us, which is affecting India, this is wholly Mr. Modi and government is responsible.
Huge decision by Trump administration, 25% tariff along with penalty. How do you see this?
It's a huge blow on this country. And the government of India and its representatives were saying that they are going to have a deal, fair deal with the United States. All of a sudden, when the parliament has been having a discourse on Pahalgam, Operation Sindoor, wherein Donald Trump also had figured in a big way, the statement that has come up from Donald Trump is a huge setback, which
Okay, let's go straight also to raise those big questions. How will Donald Trump's tariffs really hit India? Is this simply a pressure tactic by Trump ahead of that August 1st initial deadline? How should India be responding? Is an India-US trade deal still possible? Remember, that deal was to be worked out in the autumn, so more likely in September, October now. Before that, let's just explain to you what this Trump announcement means. 25% plus tariffs. Now, what does it mean? Our exports may not be as competitive anymore, particularly in a highly competitive United States markets where other competitors, Vietnam, for example, go into that market now with lower tariffs around 20%. Smartphones, electronics, auto, marine products, gems and jewellery could be hit. Textiles and apparel may see mixed outcomes because India there will compete with other countries like Bangladesh, for example. And some companies may shift out of India to bypass tariffs if, of course, all of this was to still be in place in the weeks and months ahead. And the rupee may weaken due to reduced dollar inflows. Stock markets may be hit. Economists estimate if this carries on, a 0.2 to 0.5% according to some estimates, a hit on India's GDP. An impact of the penalty surcharge on procurement from Russia is unclear. Pharma, semiconductors, critical minerals are exempt for now. So there are some gains. Some are hoping we may find alternative markets, but at least as far as the United States goes, this isn't really what India had hoped for, at least not in the interim. How will all of this play out in the weeks ahead? Joining me now, KC Singh, former Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs, is with us. Siddharth Zarabi, editor at Business Today, who tracks this very closely, is with us. And Raymond Vickery, Senior Associate Chair on India and Emerging Asia Economies, former US Assistant Secretary of Commerce and Trade Development, is joining me from Washington. And I want to come to you, Mr. Vickery, first, because give us a sense from your vantage point there in Washington. How are you seeing what Donald Trump has done today? Along expected lines, particularly when he says he's going to impose penalties on India for trading in energy with Russia.
Well, thanks very much for having me. I think this is an unfortunate development, but is in accordance with the Trump transactional approach to international affairs. Since World War II, we've had a multilateral approach. The General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, and then the World Trade Organization. And Donald Trump has cast this all aside for his great man theory of how international relations work. And he would like to have this done like a real estate transaction in which he comes out on top and can show a, quote, profit, unquote. This is not the way in which friends, great democracies like India and the United States ought to treat each other. There really is no problem internationally that couldn't benefit from U.S.-India cooperation, whether it be in security versus China, climate change, world health, and so on. But all that having been said, the reality is what it is, and both India and the United States must deal with the present reality of Donald Trump. That means, in my judgment, that India needs to assess what's in its own interest and look toward the middle and longer term. It needs to assess what's in its own interest in terms of further opening up its own economy. It is true that since independence, or going back to independence, there was an idea that India needed to protect all of its economic activity so it could build, in that instance, socialism in one country. Now, those days have passed, but there's still a lot of remnants of protectionism, which India needs in its own self-interest to reassess. One of the interesting aspects of the statement has to do with Russia, and on that, India needs to take another look itself. Where are its values? Russia is bent on reestablishing the empire which it had when it was head of the USSR. That's not in India's interest. India has gotten some cheaper oil, not cheap oil, but cheaper oil and arms for years. But India needs to take a leadership role among democracies. It does not need to be able to just pander to Russia or even to China to be able to survive. And what it needs is to operate in the international arena in accordance with its own democratic values. And those are not those of Russia. So it's very interesting to see what India will decide in that area.
Casey Singh, you're hearing Raymond Vickery particularly sort of emphasizing the Russia factor. India needs to decide what's in its own interest. Now, Raymond Vickery says possibly that India needs to relook at their arrangement. India will say, look, who is the United States to dictate terms? Your first reactions to what Donald Trump has done. The opposition is already gunning for the Modi government, saying that the Modi government strategy of reaching out to the Trump administration has not worked. On the flip side, you could argue that India is holding tough and not bowing down before Donald Trump.
Rajdeep, it's very interesting. The Truth Social tweet kind of thing of Trump, in which he has put all this, ends with capital letters. It says all things not good. And I think Russia comes towards the end of it. So what has changed? Till now, the impression we had was that we had it till autumn to finalize a deal. The US delegations coming here in the third or early fourth week of August. And so there was some stumbling blocks, and they were trying to get rid of that or see how they could manage US. But I think what has probably shifted is the US approach, Trump's approach to Russia. You see, on Ukraine, he's given the weapons back. He's saying he's unhappy with Putin. Putin's not listening to him. So all of a sudden, Ukraine, which during the first 3-4 months of his presidency, he was not paying as much attention to, he was more siding with Russia. He's reversed his position considerably. And I think that is one of the things which is probably irritating him, that he wants to exert pressure on Russia to get a ceasefire in Ukraine. That is one thing. Now, that may or may not happen, but that's the way Trump thinks. Now, the other thing is that he's got a deal with EU. Now, countries are falling into a couple of 2 or 3 different groups. One is those who are defying him. You got Brazil, you got Canada, you got China. Now, how did China get away with it? Massive tariffs were put, but the Chinese pulled back on rare earths and magnets, which started affecting the US economy, and Trump climbed down. Now, what is the leverage that we have? You see, Brazil doesn't require America as much as we do. America has a trade surplus with Brazil, and Brazil has simply shifted their agricultural crops to China. Our problem is we have outstanding problems with China. We can't become totally aligned with China. And at the same time, what is the leverage we have with America? For the last 10 years, it's been based on US giving India a long rope because we were supposed to be balancing China. Now, in Trump's approach, that does not work. He's interested in dealing with China directly. He's not interested in using India as a balancing force and therefore giving any long rope to anyone. So I think that's what has happened. India should have foreseen it coming. And I think they have just quietly submitted. And now the problem is you can humor him. One way of humoring is Pakistan has gone ahead, promised minerals, and therefore economic. One is bribery, minerals, his family gaining wealth. And the other one is you humor him. And it's Pakistan which went and nominated him for a Nobel Prize. Whereas in India, we are debating whether he is mediated or not mediated between India and Pakistan. So I think BJP has got into a jam because Prime Minister can't be seen as bowing to him. At the same time, you basically adopted a submissive role, not taking on America. And therefore, how do you handle Trump?
Okay, how do you handle Trump? That's a question many governments are asking at the moment, KC Singh, but you make important points. I want to take that also to Surjit Bhalla, who's joining us. Remember, Surjit Bhalla has tracked the economy for years, and he's been someone who's worked very closely also as former executive director at IMF for India, looking at the region. Surjit Bhalla, your first reactions to what Donald Trump has done. I recall a few months ago, you said a potential tariff deal between India and America is a huge opportunity for India. Given what Trump has done, do you still hold on to that?
Absolutely. Nothing has changed. We've had trade negotiations for 5 months. And what I want to emphasize is what I emphasized then, is that it's in India's interest to have a trade deal. We can say it is Trump that is
But a
making
fair
it
trade deal. A fair
or
trade
somebody
deal.
else. Sorry?
A fair trade deal. You need a fair
Yes,
trade deal.
exactly. Now, at the beginning, you had said that the opposition is gunning for Mr. Modi and the BJP government. But the strange reality is that there's no difference in the BJP government's approach to the trade deal and the Congress government's approach to the trade deal. Nothing has changed. We are still as
Trump is threatening to
close as
impose
we were.
penalties, Dr. Bhalla. Trump is threatening to impose penalties. I mean, this seems to be an open-ended attempt to try and put pressure on India to come to a deal on US terms.
Okay, there are 2 points to this. The first one is a trade deal, and then we'll come to the penalty, which is still up for negotiation. And mind you, that penalty is part of the geopolitics of the world, has to do with the Ukraine war, has to do with various other things. So if we can compartmentalize and do one by one, we'll be better able to reach what should be a solution, what should be our negotiating strategy. So first and foremost, we should negotiate in our own best interests. Now, one of the sticking points, so to speak, between India and the US, as far as the trade deal is concerned, is tariffs on farm and dairy products.
Yes.
Now, right after the Congress and the opposition went all out to stop the farm laws, which they were stopped, unfortunately, by the Modi government, the Supreme Court did a survey of farmers as to who they would want, as to whether they would want the farm laws to come into effect. 87% of Indian farmers, 87%, Supreme Court survey said they wanted the farm laws. So the point is, we have to look beyond our narrow thing and look at what the deep state is doing. Somebody else is
No, so are you saying a broader trade deal should include very quickly the agricultural products, dairy products as well?
Absolutely. Otherwise, I don't know what a broader trade deal means. Second,
Okay,
one second.
let me stop you for a moment. Okay, go ahead. Finish up.
Yeah. Second, we have been touting the fact that we have reached a trade deal with the UK. Now, part of the trade deal was supposed to be BITs, bilateral investment treaties. They haven't been dealt with at all with the UK trade deal. We've been negotiating that for ages to come out with, and it was announced in the budget on February the 1st that we will relook at BITs, bilateral investment trade deals. We haven't done a thing on it. So let us be a little bit objective and in the interests of India, what the BJP should do. And in the interests of India, the BJP should try and negotiate a trade deal that is good for Indian manufacturers, that is good for Indian farmers.
Okay.
So far, it doesn't appear that they have done that.
I'm just stopping you for a moment because Siddharth Zarabi, you've been tracking it. How are you seeing it, Siddharth Zarabi? Do you believe that one shouldn't overreact to what has happened? It could be Donald Trump simply negotiating hard as he's done with other countries as well and then may push back. He's just looking from America's interest point of view. How do you see it?
Well,
The first part to that question, statement was issued by the government of India at 8:30 p.m. And I think in response to what our other guests have said, Rajdeep, just two lines are very, very critical, which reveal the government of India's stance. The first point is that government of India is saying we want a mutually beneficial bilateral trade agreement. That's point number one. And the last point it says alongside is that the government attaches the utmost importance to protecting and promoting the welfare of farmers, entrepreneurs, and small and medium sized companies. So, in response to what has been discussed for the past 20 minutes on the show, it's very clear that there is no go as far as farm sectors, dairy sectors are concerned. Off record, we've also published a story where uh, top officials are saying that this is an unfair pressure tactic. And that brings me to the most critical spanner that has been thrown in what were otherwise protracted but very detailed negotiations. The quality of the negotiations, from what I have learned, was of a very, very high caliber. And those negotiations had reached some sort of finality in the form of a proposal, according to sources in the United States as of last week, were on President Trump's table. What Mr. Singh said, if you were to take it forward, the Russia factor seems to have come in. And the penalty percentage, this is going to be very, very important for a future conversation, negotiation, and meeting between the two teams. Trump had in the past said 10% on BRICS nations. Senator Lindsey Graham has proposed 100%, and he has also said to crush the economies of countries like Brazil, China, and India. Is it going to be 10 or 100 or somewhere in between? If this were to come through, it's very clear that President Trump will put our negotiators in a very, very tight corner. One final point, Rajdeep, which perhaps is being overlooked by what seems to be President Trump's personal discussion and not really fully in line with what his negotiating team have proposed, is this whole factor. Before April 1, it was 3% weighted in trade weighted average terms, the duty. That's gone up to almost 12%. Now it is going to be 25% plus penalty. Imagine the consequences for a negotiation. So has President Trump decided to put the future of the India-US relationship, which is all-encompassing, on the stake? I don't know, but it's clearly going to be a tough negotiating environment in the future.
I just want to, given what we've just heard, before I come to you, Mr. Vickery, for a final round, look at what Trump has been saying, because ultimately Donald Trump's quotes are the ones that make the headline. He warned only yesterday a 20 to 25% tariff on India. He's gone to the higher end and also added penalties. This is what Donald Trump's been saying. Just take a look at his sound bites.
India's been, they're my friends and he's my friend. And, you know, they ended the war with Pakistan at my request, and that was great. And Pakistan did also. You know, we did a lot of great settlements, including the recent one, as you know, with Cambodia, So that was a great one. I think that's been pretty well finalized now, right?
I don't know. I'm asking you.
Did I do a good job on that one? I did a good job in about 5 different wars. Do you think I'll get credit for it? No. So, will I get credit for it? She'll say yes. No.
Is the deal with India finalized?
No, it's not.
Okay. So what rate are you expecting?
Well, we're going to see. We're going to see. But India's been a good friend, but India has charged basically more tariffs than almost any other country.
I want quick comments this time from all of you as a final round. Raymond Vickery, Donald Trump keeps saying India is a good friend and then goes on to say good friend but very high tariffs. How are we to see this? Is this pressure tactics? Is this at the end of the day Donald Trump trying to squeeze India? Very quickly, sir.
With Donald Trump, nothing is about friendship. It's all about is the transaction and the aggrandizement of Donald Trump. That's his approach. It's not the right approach, but it is the reality. And what must happen is that saner heads on both the Indian and the US side must continue to value the relationship between the US and India and work our way through the difficulty which President Trump basically has created. That's his stock in trade, to create a problem and then to back off at least somewhat and then claim a great victory. That is the real estate mogul's approach in the United States to business. So we've worked our way through the nuclear test problem. We've worked our way through sanctions there. We've gotten a US India civil nuclear agreement, and we can work our way through this. But it is going to require India to assess its own interest in regard to its values, as well as the United States. And that has to do with Russia, and it has to do with protectionism.
Very quickly, KC Singh, let's just look at it from a diplomatic point of view. How should Indian diplomacy now work? We've ignored Trump's comments where he's tried to link a ceasefire, Indo-Pak ceasefire to trade so far. The Prime Minister's kept away from the T word. Should he now be speaking out? Or should our diplomats speak out and call out Donald Trump?
No, I think speaking out will not help because we do not have much leverage with the US. As I said, the Chinese did. They just withheld their rare earths and the Americans climbed down. But what we can do is you'll probably have to compromise. It's what the Europeans did. It's not popular there. There's a lot of dissension. Countries like France are very critical of it. But they've accepted a 15% across the board duty. It's going to have long-term impact. But I think they're playing for time. They realize that by midterms next year, Trump may be completely handicapped if he loses the Congress. And so it's a question of playing over the next 1 year. So I suspect India will have to basically compromise and appear to they'll have to appear not to compromise and yet compromise. I don't see any other option at this stage.
Okay, you don't see any other option. Surjit Bhalla, you've continuously said, you're the one person who's been saying that this is a trade deal that's a win-win possibility. So you would suggest just stick at it and make it as broad a trade deal as possible. Am I correct? Without getting into the numbers.
Yeah. Well, without getting into the numbers, what I would say is taking a cue from Mr. KC Singh, is that we shouldn't compromise, but we should negotiate. There's no pride lost in negotiating. That's what diplomats are there for. And that's what countries do. They negotiate in their best interest to offer a win-win for themselves and for the other partner. We have...
And you maintain that it should also involve farm products. You're not... There will be those listening to you who will say politically that's unviable, not possible.
Well, then explain to me, Rajdeep, when a Supreme Court survey of farmers in India says that reduction in farm laws or whatever, or continuation of farm laws, whichever way you want to phrase it, is in our best interest. That is what a trade deal with the US would do, would bring farm laws that we ourselves wanted, that Prime Minister Modi himself wanted to come into place. I see no pride lost. I see no harm. I see it's a win-win. We should present it that we are doing what's in the best interest of our farmers.
Okay, final word from you, Siddharth Zarabi. What do we expect over the next 48 hours leading to August 1? Will India simply now respond right away or be more patient over the next few weeks? Because there is an American delegation likely to come to India next month.
Rajdeep, the immediate response has come. I expect that further negotiations will continue. But, let's not imagine that India has no leverage. Remember, this conversation is about a goods deal. It doesn't concern services. And you have massive amounts of money that American tech companies make from India. By one research estimate, $25 billion by the big tech companies alone. Billions of dollars being spent by Indian students in the United States other forms of services cooperations, the GCC hubs that we have created, which American companies are exploiting. It's not one-way street, and I think increasingly India is also going to demonstrate and flex the leverage that it has. It's not going to be one-way street for sure.
Okay. Very, very interesting, and of course, a debate that will engage us for a few more weeks, I suspect, given Donald Trump's repeated attempts to shift the goalpost. But I appreciate my guests joining me here on what the implications could be of that big tariff announcement. Let's turn from there to the other big story that we've been tracking, the post-Operation Sindoor debate in Parliament and what's been happening in Jammu and Kashmir, where the 5 terrorists have now been killed in 48 hours in 2 separate military operations. A day after 3 Pahalgam terrorists were eliminated by forces during Operation Mahadev, today the army killed 2 suspected Lashkar terrorists. An encounter along the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir's Pune broke out this morning. 2 suspected Lashkar terrorists were killed during this encounter, codenamed Operation Shiv Shakti. Home Minister Amit Shah was speaking in the Rajya Sabha, lauding the army for the 2 operations, explaining how the precise location of the 3 terrorists was identified. The Home Minister, who has said there is no question of his resignation, said that India had hard proof of Pakistan's involvement and the opposition was only protecting them. Let's just listen in to what Amit Shah said.
मान्यवर, उनके पास से 3 राइफलें बरामद, एक 19 M4 कार्बाइन अमेरिकन राइफल है और 2 AK-47 राइफल है। जिस दिन पहलगांव में घटना हुई, हमारे निर्दोष नागरिकों को मारा गया, उस दिन वहां से NIA ने खाली कारतूसों को कब्जे लिया था। इनके मारे जाने के पहले ही वो खाली कारतूसों का फोरेंसिक साइंस लेबोरेटरी में एक प्रकार से इसकी जन्म कुंडली निकाली थी कि कौन सी राइफल से चले हैं। और जब ये मारे गए, इनके पास से भी जो राइफलें मिली, फोरेंसिक साइंस लेबोरेटरी में चंडीगढ़ में रात को फोरेंसिक टेस्टिंग कर 100% मिलान हुआ है कि इन्हीं 3 राइफलों का उपयोग किया गया था।
And joining me now to give an assessment of this big debate that's taken place in Parliament, both houses, on Operation Sindoor, is the grand young man of Kashmir politics, former Chief Minister and President of the Jammu and Kashmir National Conference, Dr. Farooq Abdullah. Dr. Abdullah, it's been a long debate in Parliament, centered in a way on India's actions against Pakistan, but that cannot be discussed without looking at the situation in Kashmir, where that horrific attack in Pahalgam took place. So, at the end of this long debate, how do you assess it from your vantage point there in Srinagar? Have most of the questions been answered by this debate?
Rajdeep, thank you for putting me on your program. The debate was long. Opposition did well. They put their questions very clearly. Unfortunately, the replies were not that clear and many replies were not given.
No, any specific, when you say many replies were not given or many answers were not clear, let's be specific. What is it specifically that Farooq Abdullah was expecting out of this debate that didn't happen?
Let me tell you. One, they did not fix the responsibility on who failed the people. Who was responsible for that happened there? And what action was taken against those people who were responsible for that, what happened in Pahalgam? The LG controls entire security here. Was he questioned? Was he taken to task? Were the other authorities that are here taken to task? How did this happen? That is one factor. Second, they took the name of the people who were killed by those terrorists, 25 and 1 Kashmiri who was a helper there, because he stood up and said this is wrong. He paid with his life. But they did not take the name of 18 people that paid the price of Sindoor, Action Sindoor. 18 who died from Punch, from Rajouri, from Titwal area of our border, Uri. No name was, no mention was made about them. But this pained us.
But the fact is, Dr. Abdullah, the government says that it has given a strong response to Pakistan, deterred Pakistan in a way. That was the government's theme. The opposition's theme was the security lapses that led to Pahalgam. The government said, we've given a tough response to Pakistan and drawn a red line. We will not fall for Pakistan's nuclear blackmail. Does all of this to you actually mean that we have moved forward, or do you still fear that terror attacks in the valley will continue?
Look, if you go back, they removed Article 370 saying that that article is responsible for terrorism in the state. 6 years have passed since the article was removed. Have they removed terrorism? Is it wiped out? As the Home Minister 1 week before that incident took place had said that he has uprooted them from the roots and there will be no more terrorism. Is that correct? Is that what has happened?
No, so am I to understand that you're holding the Home Minister and the LG squarely responsible for Pahalgam and saying they didn't take responsibility for it? And thereby you're saying the government of Omar Abdullah has nothing to do with what happened in Pahalgam. That if there is responsibility to be fixed, it has to be fixed at the door of the LG and the Home Minister. Is that what you're saying? And that didn't happen in Parliament?
I think the whole nation knows. Omar Abdullah does not control security or anything like this. There's absolutely nothing to do. Even he is not consulted when meetings are held of the Unified Command, or when the Home Minister comes here and talks of the security situation. The elected Chief Minister is not called. What do you say about it?
But it's interesting, the elected
and the promise to the state that the minute you have the election,
yes,
that you will be given the statehood. Where is that statehood? Where is it? They promised it in the Supreme Court. Where is it?
But Dr. Abdullah,
how long do you think?
But Dr. Abdullah, you will
position?
recall, Dr. Abdullah, that soon after Pahalgam, when Omar Abdullah addressed the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly, he said this was not the right time to raise the issue of statehood because the country was grieving with the victims. Now we are 3 months out. Do you believe that this issue should have been addressed in that Parliament debate? Would you have liked to see the Parliament debate being the appropriate fora for the government to announce statehood for Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir?
It was the best time. I think the best time was when that thing happened and the whole Kashmiri people for the first time in 35 years rose against it and told our neighbor in one single voice that this is not acceptable to us. You cannot take us for granted and you cannot kill innocent people in our state. That was very clear. They should have at that time honored the people and returned the statehood.
Do you therefore believe that the way forward is to start with statehood? Is that what you're saying now? That this is the appropriate time to give Jammu and Kashmir statehood? Because there will be those who will say, given the fragile security situation at the moment, we still need to see whether the situation is fully under control.
Rajdeep, what are you talking about? What's happening in Chhattisgarh? What is happening in other states? Huh? You don't see terrorism there? They're still states. Why are we suffering? Why? Are we not part of this Indian Union? It's the only first time in my life since I have been part when India became free. That state's first state in the entire up to this time, Jammu and Kashmir was converted into UT and divided. I have known of only UTs becoming states, not the other way around.
But
this is injustice to the people of Jammu and Kashmir.
you know, Dr. Abdullah, the government in its response, and the Home Minister in particular, has also pointed out that this government has avenged Pahalgam. The terrorists responsible for it, including the mastermind, have been killed. They've also targeted the terror bases in Pakistan. They've killed them in Dachigan near Srinagar. To that extent, will you at least give the government some credit that they have taken a strong step towards terrorism in a manner that previous governments perhaps did not?
Every government has taken strong steps against terrorism, always. No government of India has ever bowed down before terrorists. Let's make that clear.
But Doctor,
we have never bowed before terrorists, and we will never bow before terrorists.
But it then comes back to it that after this debate in Parliament, the fiery nature of it, where is that all-party consensus on the way forward? How do we move forward is the big question that I ask. Part of the problem that I saw as an analyst on the debate was there was too much of talk of the past. What happened in 2008, 2006, 2003, even stretching back to Jawaharlal Nehru. Question is, how do we move forward, Dr. Abdullah? As someone who's seen politics in the valley for half a century, you've seen the worst of terrorism or militancy in the valley. How do you move forward?
I think I look forward by trusting the people. You must trust people. This is what I told Prime Minister when we met him while there was COVID, that we have to start trusting, and the lack of trust must go. We are part of nation as Maharashtra is, as Rajasthan is, as Tamil Nadu is, as Bengal is, as all these states are. It's a union of states, which is called India, diverse and yet united.
Can cross-border terror and statehood go together? As long as there is cross-border terror, as long as Pakistan continues to pump in terrorists, as long as there may be some locals who may be supporting the terrorists, can statehood go together with that in your view? You mentioned other states, but other states do not suffer in the way that Jammu and Kashmir does from cross-border terror.
Well, give us the chance. Don't just sit on it. We have fought them before, given our lives, and we'll fight them again. We are not part of Pakistan. We are part of India, a democratic India, an India for all of us, whatever your religion, whatever your language, whatever your province or state. We are part of the nation, and trust us.
So is that your message to Prime Minister Modi and Home Minister Shah after this long debate? Would that be your message? Start trusting the people of Jammu and Kashmir and restore statehood at the earliest if you want to really restore true normalcy after Pahalgam. Is that your message to them?
I would say the message to the whole India, not only to the Prime Minister and the Home Minister, but to every Indian, we have to live together and let's trust each other. The trust factor is important, and that must be created and not waited for.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to leave it there, Dr. Abdullah, because you've been pretty clear in where you stand on this issue. I hope those in power are listening to you, Dr. Farooq Abdullah. You're calling for the restoration of statehood at the earliest as a first step in a way towards moving towards a post-Pahalgam.
And Rajdeep.
Yes.
Rajdeep.
Yes.
I would also like to send a message to our neighbor. Stop what you are doing. It is not going to create conducive atmosphere between India and Pakistan. if you want that conducive atmosphere to give up these tragedies of terrorism, if you do not give them, the situation will be worse and suffering will be worse of the people. Don't play with it.
Okay. Let me
Time
leave
has
it.
come.
Okay.
Stop.
Let
Stop
me leave it
and
there.
stop.
You've sent a strong message to Islamabad. You've reached out to New Delhi. Dr. Farooq Abdullah, for joining me there from Srinagar, thank you very much.
God bless you, and may your program continue to help us out.
Farooq Abdullah there speaking loud and clear. Statehood for Jammu and Kashmir is necessary as a precondition for greater normalcy. Let's turn to tonight's Get Real India story. Now, in a shocking incident of harassment, a Kargil war veteran's family in Pune was asked to prove that they are Indian citizens. A mob of unidentified men accused them of being illegal immigrants and threatened to label them as Rohingyas from Bangladesh. They've now registered a police complaint demanding an impartial investigation. Omkar Vable has tonight's Get Real India story from Pune.
Naimullah Khan fought the 1965 war. Muhammad Salim took part in the 1971 war. Hakimuddin Sheikh fought the 1999 Kargil war. Today, their family is being hounded to prove citizenship. Kargil war veteran Nakimuddin's nephew Irshad claims a group of people barged into their house in Chandan Nagar in Pune on July 26th, demanding their documents.
हमारे साथ इरशाद अहमद है। सबसे पहले अब ये बताएं कि उस रात हुआ क्या था।
सर, उस रात 11:15 बजे 70 से 80 आदमी हमारे घर पे पहुंचे। अचानक दरवाज़ा पीटने लगे। धड़ 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 की आवाज़ आई तो हम लोग दरवाज़ा खोले। जब दरवाज़ा खोले तो वो लोग 5-5, 10-10 आदमी अंदर घुस गए रूम के अंदर। आधार कार्ड दो, आधार कार्ड दो। बच्चों के पास, औरतों के पास आधार कार्ड देते रहे और वो लोग हमारे घर में उल्टा पुल्टा बात लेडीज़ से भी करते रहे, बच्चों को भी धमकी देते रहे। 6 साल के बच्चे को सोते हुए खड़े कर दिए, बोलते आधार कार्ड दो। अभी कोई बच्चा हो या बूढ़ा हो, कोई भी आधार कार्ड जेब में लेके नहीं सोता है।
Irshad claims they were taken to a police station well after midnight.
वो सब लोग हमको उस टाइम फिर पुलिस चौकी ले गए। पुलिस स्टेशन में ले जाने के बाद वो मैडम जो हमारे खिलाफ आए थे, जो हमारे घर पे हमला किए थे, उनको अंदर बैठाए केबिन का, हमको बोले बाहर बैठ जाओ। ऐसा वो सीमा मैडम जो है, उन्होंने बोला, पुलिस क्या है, PSI है वो, सीमा ढाकले। उन्होंने बोला कि अगर आप नहीं आएंगे तो हम बांग्लादेशी आपको खुद घोषित करेंगे।
तो आपके पास कार्ड वगैरह कुछ है?
किसका?
आधार कार्ड जो मांग रहे थे वो डॉक्यूमेंट
कार्ड सारा हमारे पुलिस चौक में जमा है सर, अभी भी जमा है।
Incident at Chandan Nagar on the night of Saturday, Sunday. An offence of unlawful assembly has been registered against people who had gathered there. We have assured them that all their grievances would be redressed appropriately. Their statements afresh is being recorded. No lady was taken to the police station after sunset. This was our stand. This has been re-verified from the victim family.
The family displays the identity cards of their uncles who served the Indian Army. Originally from Pratapgarh in Uttar Pradesh, the family has been settled in Pune since 1960. Irshad's brother Nakimuddin Sheikh and uncle Naimullah Khan are now in Pratapgarh.
मैं 65 की और 71 की बाल रहा हूँ।
अच्छा, 65 और 71 की।
71 में जख्मी हो गया था।
अच्छा।
Irshad's family has demanded a thorough investigation into the incident and questioned the role of police in allegedly facilitating the mob's actions. With Omkar Vable in Pune, Bureau Report, India Today.
And to think that this is happening in Pune, once described as Maharashtra's cultural capital, simply unthinkable. Let's turn from there to our good news today story, and it comes from one of my many home states, the state of Goa, which for most tourists is known for its beaches. But now the state has consciously decided to promote ecotourism, taking tourists beyond the beaches. And slowly but surely, ecotourism might just work for Goa. Here's a report. Good news today.
Every year, thousands of tourists head to Goa. The state, which gets visitors from across the globe, is India's beach tourism hub. The Goa government is now casting the net wider with ecotourism projects. It wants tourists to go beyond the beaches.
We have started ecotourism activities last couple of years. We have started, we have our Bondla cottages. We have facilities at Pali waterfall in Sattari, at Netravali in Sangay. We have facilities at Dudhsagar also. So these are the facilities we look after and we are promoting.
Forests and waterfalls like Dudhsagar have been opened up for tourists.
We are looking after the forest areas. We are seeing to it that the garbage is taken care of. Tomorrow, nobody can blame the forest that people went to the waterfalls and somebody drowned or somebody, some mishap happened. So we keep guides also to take them to the waterfalls and get them safely in the evening.
The expansion of tourism, a key industry in the state, is also aimed at increasing employment opportunities. Goa Tourism is promoting these new destinations through social media. Bureau Report, India Today.
And here's a tip. If you have the time, do go, when you go to Goa, to the Dudhsagar Falls in the monsoon. Magical experience. And I hope that many of you will visit one of my home states. I want to leave you with our image tonight. An earthquake of magnitude 8.8 on the Richter scale hitting Kamchatka Krai in Russia. The quake, one of the strongest ever, has triggered tsunami alerts across the world. A ring of fire, an entire region, Russia, Hawaii, Japan, the American western coast states of Oregon, California, Washington, all hit by it. China, Taiwan, Philippines, all, Indonesia, Chile, Peru, all on high alert. It's the ring of fire, as it's being called. A video of doctors performing a surgery during that quake has meanwhile got viral. Panicked sea lions dived into the sea as the quake hit an island just off the shores of the Russian Kamchatka Peninsula. The quake has sent tsunami waves into Japan and Hawaii and beyond, but they are not as strong as they were initially feared, and most countries have downgraded the alerts. Much of Japan's eastern seaboard, devastated by a powerful earthquake and tsunami in 2011, was ordered also to evacuate. Tankers moving out of the Honolulu harbor in Hawaii, coastal residents in Hawaii receiving alerts telling them to get to the ground floor or fourth floor above buildings. But those are some of the images that we are getting from the our image. Meanwhile, NISAR satellite launched by ISRO and NASA. Satellite will provide high-resolution, all-weather, day and night imaging of Earth. It's developed at a cost of $1.5 billion. That's my other image tonight from Sriharikota in Andhra Pradesh. Once again, India's space revolution is continuing to scale new heights. That's my final image of the day. Stay well, stay safe. Good night, Shubhratri. Jai Hind. Namaskar.
And beautiful silhouette brightening the Sriharikota sky.
जी हाँ, अभी आपने देखा चारों L40 तथा कोर बूस्टर S139 का